I'd like to call to order the special town council study session for Wednesday, May 11. Call to order, please. I'm sorry, roll call, please.
Mike Aurelio.
Here.
Brian Blazek.
Present.
Wayne Pondinas.
Present.
Michael Schilling.
Here.
Gerald Swett.
Present.
Joe Wizawati.
Present.
David Westland is absent, and Beth Hernandez present.
Okay. So the first item of business is item A, the acquisition of fire equipment. Chief Leduc.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So, according to the 5-year plan, we are supposed to be specking a new fire engine. Our current fire engines that we're looking to replace are we have two engines that are 27 years old. There's a thing called ISO. I kind of talked to you guys a little bit about it before, but we're at a max rating for ISO for those apparatus. So we have spoken to a few companies, Pierce, Ferrara, E1, Sutphin, Smeal, and Seagrave. We formed a committee, and after reviewing the spec that I provided to Joe, probably beginning of last month or sometime, Sutphin is the company that we would like to go with. It's a 100-page spec. I brought it with me, and it's, probably I won't be able to answer every question unless you guys have detailed questions on it. But this is something that we did have in the 5-year plan. It's roughly an $800,000 replacement. Just like everything else, unfortunately, in this economy has gone up. We used to be able to spec out an engine and have it within 7 to 8 months. Now we're looking for 2 years. Not only after the 2 years, at the end of this month, if we choose to go with this spec, this company is going up 4%. Other companies are going 7 to 8% just this quarter, and they're expecting to go up more throughout the year. Steel's going up. It's hard to get even the engines and everything for it. So this is something that snuck up on us relatively quickly. And if I was paying better attention, I probably would have started last year to appeal to you guys to go a little bit ahead of time. This will come out of the fire cum. There's typically money in there in the past, except for 7620, our last engine we bought. 7620, the council at that time decided to lease agreement it. But prior to that, most of those expenses were paid in full. And that's something that you guys would decide with the help of Clerk Treasurer Hernandez. But my recommendation, the committee's recommendation, would be to use Sourcewell, which is what you guys use to purchase the street sweeper and other items. Sourcewell does meet the bid speccing process. Herb Fire is who we'd buy this from. We've been working with them. They suggested Sourcewell makes things a little bit smoother, I feel. So I'm here to answer questions if you guys, but that's my suggestion, to go with the Sutphin rescue engine, 4-seat. I can give you a little bit of highlight on it. So Mike, you'll probably care more about this than anyone else, but a 4-seat engine, 1,000-gallon tank, 2,000 GPM pump, a 30-gallon foam tank. It will have a light tower on it. The spec that I did present to you guys includes all custom fabrication for our tools. So basically this is taking 2 engines and a rescue truck, putting it into one. So our rescue truck, I like to call it our toolbox and wheels. It'll have everything there. Everything will have a custom place. All state-of-the-art safety, 360 cameras, airbags all over. So just like our personal vehicles, firefighter safety is a big deal. Clean cab environment. So we're concerned about cancer in the fire service. Our gear will be in a special, but a certain spot that's not in the cab. So I will entertain any questions if you guys have them.
Kevin, do we have a potential buyer by chance for, a smaller municipality perhaps?
So there is definitely a market in for our other vehicles. We recently explored getting quotes on our 2 engines that are 27 years old. Our Rescue, which is not 27, it's roughly 20, but it's been fixed since then. So, and then our Tower ladder, which is it's been out of service for over a year and a half now, at the dealer getting fixed. So I've looked into getting quotes for that. There is a good secondary market. The problem is now the lead time. So it takes
now
2
you're
years.
in between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, so there's an opportunity for that.
I was just curious.
And there's so typically, and Mike could talk a little bit about this as well, Councilman Schilling, that we take very good care of our stuff. So our 27-year-old engines don't look 27 years old. There's someone that will buy them. I don't know if it'll be a local municipality. In the past, we have I believe, and I believe we have to offer to local first per state law, but I've seen things go elsewhere.
I said Mike might buy it.
Yeah, Mike already has.
Well,
it
usually
prepared.
one unfortunate thing about it is you take care of it and, you know, with it being 27 years old, it doesn't meet much of the standards of today, so usually stuff like that gets shipped overseas or,
Do you have any idea what kind of resale market there is available?
There is. So there's two companies that are particularly web-based that I've been looking at, especially for our tower ladder that unfortunately has been in the shop again for almost a year and a half. That is something that we've proven for a year and a half that we're not using because we cannot. It would be fiscally smart, in my opinion, to move that truck. The problem is one, we don't have it to physically move it, but if we had it, the market and what it's worth, you're not getting, I think, fair market value. So that truck now, if we bought a new tower ladder, and I'm not talking tower ladder, what I want to purchase now, a new tower ladder is going to be 1.7 million. It's gotten sickening how expensive this has been. A couple weeks ago, I was down at FDIC, which is the fire department conference, one of the biggest ones in the nation, down in Indy. All different distributors were there. We kind of talked about it because that's our next truck in the 5-year plan. Yeah, it's
So
scary.
we're even if we make a decision going forward, it's going to be 2 years before we see the
Yeah.
equipment. So it's going to be 2 years before the other one's going to be for sale. So the market could significantly change between now and
Correct.
then. Okay.
And we still have to use it in that time too. Those other
Right.
two trucks.
So educate me if you would. One of them would be, will this fit underneath the bridges on 231?
Yes.
It will. Okay.
So this will fit. It's going to look like a fire engine, but it's going to have more doors essentially.
Okay.
So it's not higher. It's smaller in height than our tower ladder, and our tower ladder fits on 231. It's not as wide as our tower ladder either. But it is wide. It fits on our roads. I mean, there's some subdivisions, some areas that it's definitely tighter. Going through some of the roundabouts, we're close on the curbs, and it depends how fast we're going or whatever. And you know,
Kevin, I'm sorry, what year was it in the
I think it's
5-year plan?
next year.
So we had it in there for next year?
Yeah, for 800. So it's coming in right at 800 right now. If,
So the price is the same, but you're saying you would need approval to get the process started, but it'll really come in 2 years later?
we won't pay for it for 2 years.
Okay.
Just if we do lease or whatever. So
Right.
that money essentially in my head is becoming not really encumbered, but encumbered.
Yeah.
We're spending it
Right.
before it's even here.
If they bid it for us, are we gonna lock in the price?
Yeah.
With
So
inflation going nuts.
there's a 4% increase at the end of this month. I know we can't do any action, or you guys cannot do any action at this meeting. And I don't know how quick it would work. And I'd have to talk to Beth too about that. Your meeting's on the 20.
5th?
I'm sorry. My
So
bad.
there's some days there, but
I was just curious if they were going to hold the mark once they give it to us. They'll say, we'll sell it to you for 800,000, and they don't come back next year and go, oh, you owe us 950.
no, once we sign, we sign at the
Okay.
price.
That's
So
what I
that's why I'm
wanna
kind of
see.
hoping we get it in this
It's
month. 'cause
locked in
we save
now.
that 4%, which is roughly $40,000-ish.
It's 32, right, so.
Did you say it was your suggestion to lease instead, or you wanted to buy it outright?
That's up to I think the council. In the past, we did both. I'm comfortable because the money would be there if nothing else happened.
Right.
We just have to spend it. I have to budget. Beth would have
That's-
to understand it that it's gone.
Right.
So
We can discuss that, and I would look for suggestions, but I know in the past with interest rates really low, it made some sense to lease, but now that interest rates are starting to climb, because I know the rates are gonna go up, and we're really looking 2 years from now. So we really don't know. Hopefully, we can decide in 2 years whether to buy or pay cash or lease,
I
but
think Kevin would just have to decide for his department what additional expenses
Yeah.
he would see coming down. Because if you don't have, if you're earmarking that amount of money and then you have these things that pop up and there's nothing
you have to keep
for
that
it.
there. It has to
Yeah.
be there essentially now this year, like Beth's saying.
Yeah.
And I have to operate. The town has to operate
Correct.
that it's spent.
We
even
can
though
have
it's
that
not here.
conversation maybe between now and 2 weeks when we have our next council meeting.
Yeah,
And hopefully we can come to some agreement there.
the dealer does have people that they suggest to go through financing. I know the town has done that before. That's not my ballpark, so I'll let you guys handle that.
Does need to be decided for a couple of years, right? Whether we buy or lease, that's
Absolutely.
2 years down the road.
We just need to put pen to paper if we're
Taxation,
gonna
yeah.
use Sourcewell and go with this truck.
Just commit.
I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
So, and I understand these markets are slightly different than auto. So is there a way of, like you're saying, we're going to trade, somehow sell our current fire truck? Is it offered, or is there a firm that offers like a trade-in for you can lock in the value now? Because the market comes and goes, right? And we're in an inflationary period now. Is there any way, or is there any type of avenue of process of locking in a trade-in value now versus later, 2 years from now?
Typically not, because we could put miles on it, we could get in an accident with it, something had happened to it. So these vehicles, unfortunately, we're big red, and we drive a little bit fast sometimes. So hopefully people would see us, but the fire industry and police, fire, and EMS, we get hit a lot more than we probably should. So that's one reason why they don't do that. The two companies that I know of.
So why did you select this particular piece of equipment, bid specs, compared to the one that you compared it to?
Why this one?
Yeah, I mean, weren't there
So-
weren't there two you looked at?
There was a few companies that we talked to.
Okay.
One.
I
this is-
understand Sourcewell, and it's already pre-bid for us, so that's approved contracts. but-
Yeah, so there are a few other companies. So there's a company in town we spoke to. There's a company out of Wisconsin that we really like and spoke to. Everyone that we spoke to has been great to deal with and been very helpful. This truck, this brand is in local municipalities. They're a smaller company, so they're not making mass producing as many trucks. So we feel a little bit higher quality. They were very easy to work with, and some of our bid spec and some of the things that we had suggested, they worked with our committee for. We went and visited one. The closest one is in Hebron. There's another one in Chesterton I know of. And I think someone up north has one too. And we really liked the product that they had.
Okay, good, thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. If it takes 2 years to get,
Yes, sir.
are we thinking, are we going to get into this fire territory, and are we going to be buying a truck that might be stationed in somebody else's firehouse? Or am I misunderstanding that, how that's going to work?
So the fire territory, if the council, we get to that point, we're still very, very infancy talking to other chiefs and other municipalities if they even want to do it. So the fire territory, one of the ways, there's a few ways that could happen. One, when you write the agreement, the debt goes with. So if we do a lease, the rest of the lease goes to the territory, and the territory is now responsible for it. The other one is, which is something that if I was a town, I wouldn't really go for, that we keep the debt. It doesn't really make much fiscal sense to the town. So there's a couple different ways to write that, Councilman Pendinas, but I don't know if we're even to that point yet.
Well, I'm just,
But you're right. So
You're
we are
thinking
talking
about
about
it,
fire
yes.
territory. It's something that
Yes,
we
sir.
should ask.
Okay, thank you.
And then back to the other question was, where is it going to be? Just preliminary talks with the fire territory right now. We're not trying to transfer equipment anywhere. It's more of just trying to get more staffing, people on the floor, and use what we already have to make a better product for our greater community.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, item B, 2022 Freedom Fest update. Joe?
Yeah, just, I'm going to have Cindy come up here if she would, but I just wanted to just get a consensus from the council on the community events expenditures and revenues, just so we have some clarity on where these funds are going to go. So if there's no objection, I talked to the clerk treasurer about this, and, we kind of said, put it under that expenditure, that line item, if you will, for the revenues and expenditures for under community events.
It's really the council's call on where you would like to operate this from. We just need clarity on which fund you would like to use.
So what are our options?
Well-
Community events, general fund.
Okay.
Is there a recommendation from Beth or from Joe,
I think he made a recommendation to go with the community events.
community events?
Right, to keep the money more encased, I would guess, to keep it more trapped, so we have a better idea how it's coming in and out.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we need a motion, or are you just looking?
No,
for-
we can't take
Okay,
action.
we
can't make
But
that decision
th- This
anyway,
is,
but-
this, I don't think we need a motion on it, Beth. I think we were just needing consensus on it, right?
I don't,
Well, yeah, I
we can't
mean,
make that consensus tonight anyway.
yeah.
Well, we can make a consensus, right? You just can't take
Yeah, you can
action.
make a
Yeah.
consensus, as long as there's, if there's objections, then we could formalize it in a vote in 2 weeks.
Okay,
If there's no objections, that's what we're gonna go with.
okay,
I'm okay with that.
So it makes sense to
Community
me.
events?
all right. Anything else there? Before we
No,
call
I'm gonna-
Cynthia up.
Well, yeah, I'll have Cynthia talk about the rest of the information. She's gonna give everyone an update, so.
Hey, first of all, it's nice to meet all of you. So the update on the fest right now, if you have questions, let me know along the way. So it's going to be at Heartland. It's a family community celebration that we've contacted and invited local businesses to participate with. The time, it's going to be from 3 to 10. That includes fireworks. We're going to have a beer tent, or we're going to have a tent and a stage, and we'll have a beer tent serving beer from 3 to 9:30 would be last call. We'll have a family designated area in that tent. There will be a stage set up for the band. We'll have a local vendors having bounce houses for the children. We're going to have glow sticks for the kids. Midwest will be open to, we haven't solidified our details with Midwest yet, but they will be open to let the kids go in there and share some of the activities that they have there. We're still working out those details. Malt Brothers will be our beer vendor. We have 2 bands that will be performing. One band from 3 to 5:30, taking a break, and then another band from 6:30 to 9:30. We have 2 confirmed food vendors, Welch's and Pascal's Pizza. We've created a fest logo, and we've met with Public Works, who will be working us, solidifying the map. We have some different ideas on how to set up the park. So we're open to, we had a discussion with Public Works, Fire Department, and Police Department to make sure it's community-friendly and safe. Public Works will be helping us with the water, the power, the picnic tables, beautification or cleanup. The Police Department will be working with the traffic flow, first aid, lost parents. Fire Department will be first aid, EMS, and then we have sponsorships that are coming in. We have a local sponsor that is going to sponsor T-shirts for the event. We have 5 other community businesses that are interested in sponsoring the team. Marketing would be on Facebook, through the water bill, the website, and signs in town. And the goal is to have minimal impact on budget, staff, and the town, and volunteer opportunities are available. Questions?
Volunteer opportunities to do what?
To help relieve the burden on staff, and the volunteer opportunities would include to monitor the bounce houses for the children, that the right age group is going in there. If there's a volunteer in the beer tent, they have to be over 21, but that might be help clean up the tables or picnic tables or whatever.
Okay. And is all this being coordinated through you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Good. Is there any other areas, as we're reaching out to the community here to let them know what's going on, are there any other areas that we could look for some volunteers or need some volunteers for? Or will that be coming later?
We're working on that right now. Part of it would be reaching out to the local churches to see if they're interested in any volunteers. Our sponsorship letter also says at the bottom that volunteer opportunities are available to please contact us. And then because of the age limit, we're not sure. I think you have to be over 18 to legally volunteer, so that kind of leaves out the schools. So we really have to reach out to adult volunteers.
Anybody have questions, comments?
Just to, if I could,
Yes.
we will have some expenses that are going to be coming up for the council in 2 weeks with respect to the tents and stuff like that. So we're trying to get our hands around how much the whole scope of this is going to be. So we'll have an update, and I'll update the council in a memo in terms of, what numbers we actually are looking at in terms of expenses, and then what kind of projections we're looking at in terms of sponsorships and stuff like that. So,
Okay, so you're going to be addressing sponsorships also?
yeah,
Okay.
we're trying to get some numbers. I think John DeYoung was working on getting that taken care of. I think he's kind of spearheaded that whole project.
Okay,
That's his forte.
Oh, yeah.
sounds exciting.
John's a wizard at that stuff.
Okay. Anybody else? Cynthia, thank
Okay.
you very much.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Cindy.
Is it Cindy or Cynthia? What do you?
Cindy.
Cindy. I will.
nuns in grade school and my grandma, the only ones that called me Cynthia.
Okay.
Only when you were in trouble, right?
Exactly, very much so. Thank you.
Okay, item number C is the backflow ordinance. You want to run this one, Wayne, or you want to?
Well, in front of you, you got a draft. This draft was drawn up by Aqua Backflow. I talked with Dave, that he still has to work on it. There's no penalties in here, fines, anything like that, when the thing should be tested. So that's basically what you got in front of you, so there's really no need to discuss that. But we've had this company now, I think, that we're in our second year. I think it's Aqua Backflow, so they're doing all the work. We could have done it ourselves, but nobody wanted to take that on, and I said, I can do it, but it's gonna take a while.
Right.
There's a lot of work involved, but once it goes, it's just for safety of the water.
Wayne, I mean, if I could maybe just give us a little bit of history, the people that aren't so water savvy, so that everyone kind of gets an idea of what this is, because it is important, right?
Right, it's important to protect your water, so a lot of people don't know that. Maybe we need to have a class with somebody that's really into it and tell you that, like if you're in a construction zone and the bricklayers are using water and it's a new house, but there's no meter in place, there's no backflow preventer on there, so that drum could have come from anywhere. That hose could have been anywhere, so you can contaminate your water when the water main breaks like this. All the water from wherever, from other houses, can come in or can come from their house, and you can contaminate your water supply. So it's all about safety. And the town doesn't, with the way that this ordinance is here, the town doesn't make any money on it. Right now, I didn't like the thing because if Jerry's company was doing it, and that they're charging, I don't know, it could be $13 for him to test it, even though he has a license, it won't count. If Jerry's testing, he's got a license, and I'm Aqua Backflow, it's not going to take, because he's got to register with me, and he's got to pay the $13, $10, whatever it is.
Let me interrupt you for just a second. I don't have a company like
No.
this, and I'm not going to be benefiting from
And I
this.
apologize if
I understand your point.
Right.
Thank you.
But he said, one looking at me, so I'm like, okay. So you have to, we have to go through this, and then Item wanted this done. They would come in, okay, what are you doing for backflow? We know where the meters are, most of them. Now it's enforcement, and that's why you have to have the ordinance to back it up.
Right.
Otherwise, you have nothing.
Yeah, and one of the things that I noticed in here is that, to exactly what you said, there's no enforcement mechanism. There's also no fine or assessments for
Right.
that too. So,
And you have to have that, and even
but I think that's why we're having the conversation
right,
today. Yeah.
and that's why we're going to go ahead with this and doctor this up and improve that rough draft that you have in front of you.
Sure. So I have a question on this. So, we definitely want safe water. We want to safeguard our water against contamination. But at the same time, we don't want to be overly burdensome to our residents. Is it really needed every year to have this? Everybody in town needs to have
Yes.
this every year?
Yes,
Why?
and that's because item wants that, and I think that's 327, I don't, it's in here. 327, it's the code for it, and you have to have that.
Yeah, okay.
So what some people have done, Mike, they thought, oh, we can afford to fertilize our lawn with our sprinkler system. And guess what? The backflow don't work. It goes into the water main. And
But I
then you
get
can-
that, I get that, but, so, just speaking of, because you're just testing the valve, so, can you do me a favor? Can you send us some studies, just not from one guy, if there is possibility for every other year for residents, because it's just.
There's no-
I hate to give them a pain in the neck and have them spend money if it's not needed. If it's needed, it is what it is.
Well, I'll tell you what,
So-
if you go to the backflow school, they'll tell you that there was a drinking fountain, it was a mortuary. And the water's getting darker and darker. Eventually, they're drinking bodily fluids coming from the mortuary because their backflow system wasn't working. Backflow, if you get item involved, you know what, I'll get the number for item and I'll have them
I would
contact
appreciate
you.
it, because we have a fair amount of industrial buildings. I remember years ago, at least when I was handling this for us, I thought many times it was not every year. We had to have it tested, but it was not every year. And I don't, and is this the best policy? Whatever the best policy is, but I'd like, can you just send us some information? I'd just like to know and make sure. If this is what it is, a safeguard, then that's what it is. But if there is a way of having less burden, I'd like to explore that too. That's all.
So is this for,
Let's see if I can look it up. Normally, it's always been annually, I think even
Right.
AWWA, that's the people that oversee it,
so is this for everybody that has a meter, or only if you have a second meter for water?
Well, this is for backflow, for the
for
suppression
your
vacuum
sprinkler
breaker inside the house.
And does like Sherrville and Dyer and Munster? And
Yeah,
Crown Point,
Valpo's
they
in
all do
this.
this are residential, not just industrial. and
It's
commercial.
everything.
They do.
It's so if in like a new construction, I like to have the RPZ and if Jerry, well, if John is going to open up a shop, this is going to be a building right here. It's going to be a card shop, John's card shop. Okay, I want an RPZ in there at that time. So now John goes out of business after a year.
RPZ, I'm sorry.
RPZ is a reduced pressure zone. So that covers everything. So now somebody else wants to put a nail spa in there. Nail spa has chemicals and everything else. That can backflow into your system. That is called a high hazard. So it's called the degree of hazard for when you look at somebody's business. And that's why, I said look at what's happening in building and planning, because right now you can go in there and get a license, put $25 on the table and walk out. But we need to inspect the building where it's going and see what's going on. Has this guy got chemicals, like camera shops and stuff, hospitals, all that stuff? Like I said, degree of hazard. So if you get into it and you watch and you listen and you learn, it makes a lot of sense. They give you another example of somebody with propane. Propane leaked into the water system and blew up a house, all because the backflow system didn't work.
And when items involved, there's penalties if you don't
Right,
comply.
right. So I can reach out to Item. I'll have them call you.
Well, could you just have them send the information? I don't need to
Yeah.
have them call me, so unless you think that's extremely valuable. I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a couple different studies, just to educate myself. I'd rather read through it.
Actually, there's probably item probably has an ordinance or a statute in place.
Yeah.
That's telling you, this is what you have to do, and that's what this ordinance is for, so.
Right.
We just need to verify, is it required annually? Can you do it every other year or whatever, and
Yes.
whatever is required?
Just to make sure.
That's the direction.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Okay, all right, good. Any other questions for Wayne on this one? Then we go to item D, the American Rescue Plan Act. Joe?
I'm sorry, I didn't have a copy of this for Beth, but I will make sure she gets one of these, so. But basically what this is I know we've been going back and forth with respect to this, so I figured we'd have a discussion at study session instead of at a council meeting, because it just makes sense to do that. So with respect to the composition of the ARPA committee, it's been suggested that the town council serve as that committee, which would consist of, advising the council would be obviously the clerk, the treasurer, me, Trista from Senator Dalton, the police chief, fire chief, public works director, building and planning director, and IT. So we would be advising you and basically going over the requests. So that would be, my recommendation. Obviously, I would want to have some feedback from the council with respect to that. As far as opportunities for public input, my recommendation would be to have a survey posted once we formalize a provisional plan on this is what we're going to do. We can solicit for comments, suggestions on that. We will also have a public hearing at some point to offer comments on the finalized plan for the appropriations before it comes to council. So let's have a discussion on this if we can, just to kind of get your feedback on this. But I'd really like to kind of get this thing moving, so we can at least kind of get things in play. So
That's what I was gonna ask you.
Yeah.
Are we gonna have a timeline or a sort of timeline for right now?
well, my goal is to have the entire, all the asks, if you will, from all the departments for the council for July. So I'm thinking maybe July or maybe early August, we'll have a study session to finalize the plan, and then we can kind of move forward with that in terms of getting that, adopted. So it's, obviously we want to take measured steps with this and not just, jump into it. But we do have a timeline in terms of, getting things done.
So, yeah, I'm fine with this. I would like to see the first meeting of, which would be the town council, and then all of these, these advisors to the committee. And I would like to include, if we have a park director by then, that he would be included in, or he or she would be included in that. But I'd like to see.
I agree with, I'm sorry, I did leave that out of my.
I'd like to see that presentation, so hear me through this. This is just an idea that I kind of had in mind. Have a presentation of the committee and all the advisors to the committee, and they can present all of their suggestions, all of their ideas, areas where they want to see their projects and things like that. Give those all to us at a public meeting, and then you're suggesting a survey, so whatever the survey would be could include all those different ideas.
Yeah, we would have a draft plan put together
Okay.
for it. And I got to say, so we're not looking at doing the appropriations as much as what's required is the plan. So there's a plan, then there's the appropriation.
Right.
But we would put the appropriation out there so they know what we're looking at in terms of dollars and cents. But the plan would be very generic and broad in scope.
Right, well, once we get the plan
Yeah.
in place, then we have to do the ordinance that would cover it. But
Right.
I'd like to see that meeting of, give us the information, then let's get that survey out there, then have a public hearing where everybody sees all the ideas, all the information. They can email their ideas to us, they can email them to you. We can have public input on this. And then at that point, then we can, try to fine tune it a little bit finer.
Right, skinny it down, yeah.
And go down from there. And if we can have this approved by the end of July, I would love to see that, because I want to see us working on some of these projects that are out there.
And-
That's kind of my idea, what I kind of had in mind. If that makes sense. Anybody have ideas that are different than that, or
I like-
better than that, or?
Well, I'm
whatever?
not sure they're better, so, but, I'm very good with the people advising, no problem. I would just like to see more resident involvement. I would like to see several, just residents, not us, because I would like more eyes on this, and then a nice recommendation us too. I think more eyes on this and more people looking through this is better than fewer. And I like the idea of having a survey to our residents and having input from them as well. It's a lot of money. That would be my 2 cents. I would really like to see whatever committee is formed to have residents, advertise the community and get residents on there. And I don't know what kind of stipulations, you can have some if you like, whether there's some type of background that would be suitable for picking these items. That would be my 2 cents.
Okay. Anyone else? So, we've got the police chief, fire chief, public works director, building and planning, IT, they all have submitted their
And parks too.
wish list or project list.
Yeah, I need to go through some numbers, fine tuning the numbers with the clerk treasurer on one of the proposals that she had.
Okay,
But, I mean, that shouldn't take any time.
right, okay. And so we could have a wish list of 2 or 3 times what our money allows for.
About 9 million.
Okay,
Yeah, just Public Works, I think, put in 3.3 million by himself.
It keeps growing, so hurry.
Oh, really?
okay. What are your thoughts, Mike? Anything?
If you wanna add a couple people on there, I'm fine with that,
Well, okay.
but keep your department heads on there.
Yeah, because if I'm reading this right, the department heads would advise the committee.
Right, so they're
Right,
gonna,
so
because they're
I'm
gonna be
talking about
coming.
the committee themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So they're gonna, absolutely, they need to advise the committee.
Right.
Well, they're closer to everything than we are.
How else would they be able to make a sensible decision?
Right, and I don't know if we want to really kind of overcomplicate the committee, because ultimately, they're going to be making the recommendation to you. So obviously, the advisors to the committee are going to be making their pitches to you, and this is what we want it, this is why we want it.
Right.
And I don't know if that necessarily having someone that's really not familiar with the, with what the council's objectives are, it would be,
Or what the department manager.
well, yeah, and what the directors of the
They're gonna
departments,
get
their
it.
5-year plans
But
and
they'll
stuff
get
like
it if they're
that.
on the committee. Like, they're gonna get an earful from all these very qualified people, and if they're, let's say, you'd have to vet through what their qualifications would be in order to make that sensible decision, but I'm confident there's people in this town that are smarter than I am, and would love to hear their opinion too.
Yeah, but they're not in the working progress of the town. They're not behind the scenes.
That's the
We,
only,
well, some of us are.
Neither am I, so,
mean,
right, so.
that's the only
I'm
problem.
not in the fire
with-
department and the police
with
department
that
either, so.
recommendation is the fact that you're gonna have people who, are going to wanna spend it on projects that won't have an impact for us.
Well,
In other words,
not
we.
necessarily, maybe, but if.
No,
maybe.
I'm speculating, Mike, but at the same time, I'm saying, he's got a sewer project, I got a road project, okay? So you take his money and my money and add it up and go, okay, that's out. And then you go from there. Because mine, I've got help coming. I negotiated with Sherville and I negotiated with the Lake County. And therefore, they're going to put in their money, but we don't want to screw around too long.
And we'll lose that.
That 300 grand will go bye-bye and,
Well, I'm not saying that, it should be real time consuming. I agree with that. It probably could seat a few people in a month, I don't know. And maybe July would be aggressive, because if you did that, maybe it would have to be a month later. But it's important, timing's important. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I'm not gonna die in the
that's-
hell,
no,
that's
it's
what I would-
fine, it's just, we've got certain criteria we're gonna have to meet, because other towns are hanging on our decision, and they're getting pushy too, because they wanna finish allocating their money.
So we've got a town council meeting on the 25th. Do we want to try to get the first step of this, to have the department heads present their lists to us prior to that, just to get a time frame going?
I would think the week before would.
I could have a summary of all
Week
of the.
before is going to be
the-
next week.
Yeah.
Oh,
In
okay.
fact, I've been working on it, but I just need to get some more numbers from Beth. But in terms of, all the asks, I can have that, in a summary format for you.
At
so that
least
way-
roughed in,
Yeah,
yeah, we're
yeah.
gonna have just roughed in numbers, it's not gonna be
So we'll have
anything
some
specific.
rough numbers for the council to take a look at.
Okay. Yeah, because I'd like
the
to
next
start
meeting.
the ball rolling on this sooner
Yeah.
rather than later.
But I
so-
think if we're gonna get into like a lot of detailed discussion, I think this is a better format,
I agree.
for that.
Yep, that's kind of the format that I'd like to put it in,
Mm-hmm.
and save any decision-making for just a separate meeting altogether.
Yeah.
So we can have informal conversations like this,
Yeah.
okay? And we can also allow public input at that, because they'll have the same information that we'll have, basically.
Right, and once we kind of put a preliminary plan together on how we're gonna approach this, then put it out for public comment,
Right,
for, 30 days or whatever you guys wanna do.
okay.
But I think that would be a better approach for that.
All right, anybody else have anything to add? Okay. And then we'll move on to item E, which is updates.
So I passed out a memo to the council with respect to the Riverfront District. Basically, this outlines the timeline for implementation of this whole process. So the next step that we have is the meeting for the RDC for May 25th. They will be approving the amendatory declaratory resolution and plan amendment. So that's going to be teed up on the agenda. We've already done all the map updates and everything that needed to get done on that. So we're excited to get this moving and on a proper timeline. This may change, but right now this is where we're at.
Okay.
Great.
So far, it doesn't look like it's going to require any special meetings.
No, we kind of planned it that way. But like I said, we may have a discussion, if we have it at any point with the town council during a study session or something like that. But outside of that, no, this will be the timeline.
Okay. Questions or comments? I believe that is all we have on our agenda unless anybody has anything else. I will look for more.